Hey everyone, welcome to Cinema Safari. Today we're talking about Supergirl. So Supergirl is the second film in the DC Universe headed by James Gunn. We see Millie Alcock take over the role as Kara Zor-El Supergirl alongside Eve Ridley, Jason Momoa, David Cornsweet, who reprised his role as Superman from last year's film Superman, which was the debut film of this new universe. So I'll talk about, excited for it, so let's get right in with Supergirl. So Supergirl is the second film in the DC Universe. We see Millie Alcock star as Kara Zor-El Supergirl, Eve Ridley as Ruthie Knoll, Jason Momoa plays Lobo, David Cornsweet appears in the film, reprising his role as Clark Kent Superman after his debut last year. And yeah, fun film. Getting right into it, we knew going into it was going to have a darker tone than Superman, which was a lot more upbeat, lighthearted, which is closer to the comics for the character. This film, having a darker Supergirl, and I feel like what we're used to, especially coming off of the Arrowverse and Melissa Benoist and her portrayal of Kara and Supergirl throughout the, I think, 6 seasons of the show. For the most part, that was a more lighter take on the character. Not to say that she definitely had her darker arcs throughout that show. But this was definitely a darker Supergirl than I think we were used to seeing in live action. With last year, or not last year, but with The Flash that came out a couple years ago, we were introduced to Sasha Calle's Supergirl for a very brief, just one film. But I know they intended to have her do more in that franchise before the DC Extended Universe ended and kind of transitioned into this new universe. But that was also a darker Supergirl, kind of like an alternate reality. So we didn't really get to see what would have come of her version of Supergirl. But this was definitely a darker version than I think we're used to seeing, especially in live action. Especially what we've been treated to in recent years, mostly with Melissa Benoist's portrayal in the show. Millie Alcock did great. A lot of the early reviews I was reading, a lot of them were very similar, said the same thing. She praised for her portrayal, how she played the character. A little more negative aspects towards the story, a lot of the visuals for some of the fight sequences throughout the film. After watching it, I definitely agree with that. If I had to rate the film, I'd probably give it a 4 out of 10, and that's mainly just for the story. I'd say the story was bad because there were definitely it had its key moments that I thought were done well, but overall, when I talk about it, I kind of compare it to Black Adam. How a lot of the film, there was a lot more action and fight sequences that kind of overshadowed the story. And I honestly feel like this did have more of a story than Black Adam, if you were to compare the two. But it definitely had a lot more fighting and action sequences overshadowing the story for this film. Similar to Black Adam, which is why I kind of compare the two in that aspect, at least. But outside of Millie Alcock, Eve Ridley did great, I thought. She's gotten a lot of praise as well for her character, Ruthie. Jason Momoa, I thought he did great as Lobo. Definitely, I feel like he was underused. And I feel like part of that circles back again to the weaker story for the film. The scenes he was in a decent amount. But, having an iconic character like Lobo in the film, if you're going to have him and have Jason Momoa play him, you gotta put him in there. And I mean, the scenes he was in, he did a great job with the role. He did great. I just felt like they could have utilized him better. So as far as like visuals, I don't really have any complaints about them. Honestly, I thought it looked fine for the most part. I didn't really have any complaints. Maybe some of the, it is set in space on several different planets, and with James Gunn heading this franchise, a lot of people are saying it's Guardians 5. Like Superman last year was Guardians 4, this is Guardians 5. And James Gunn, he has a good track record with like cosmic stories, space, sci-fi, stuff like that. So maybe some of the visuals could have been done differently. I don't want to necessarily say better. Maybe better for some of them, but definitely differently in some aspects. Personally, I don't really have any complaints about how the film looked. I thought it was fine. If you're going to compare it to some other films, it might not be as good as like certain visual like effect films or heavy bass films like that. If that makes sense. But yeah, I didn't really have any problems with the visuals, honestly. But I feel like the biggest, from a negative side, I feel like the biggest takeaway negatively was the weaker story. Definitely had its moments, like I said earlier. The arc or sequence of them, like her leaving Krypton, kind of living for a little while in Argus City, and eventually how she ended up coming to Earth and meeting Superman. I like that sequence. I thought that was probably one of the strongest points of the film story-wise. So I definitely like that. As far as the ending goes, I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't watched it. And if you're gonna watch it before you listen to the rest of this episode. But I know a lot of people were kind of divided on the ending. I feel like how it played out made sense. With Krem, who was the main villain in the film, who killed Eve Ridley's family, and then poisoned Crypto, which is the main reason, Kara gets involved with everything that happens in the film to get the antidote. Keeping Ruthie from killing Krem, I thought, that made sense, and I liked that moment because she was, at least what I thought, for the reason she kept her from killing Krem was kind of to preserve her innocence. She's she's still a kid. She hasn't actually killed anyone. At least what I thought in that moment was she was preserving her innocence, which I thought was a nice moment. But then she just goes and kills him. And I honestly, I had mixed feelings about that. I felt like, I get why she killed him. Crypto means so much to her. They have a strong bond. So I understand why she killed him, but at the same time, I feel like it could have gone either way. So I feel like that was kind of a divisive moment. And honestly, I don't know if that even like negatively impacted the film for me at least. I just feel like it could like it was very divisive. Like even to this point, I'm still like when I think about it, still debating like if it went the other way, if she spared him, like how would it have affected the overall film for me? I honestly don't know. But yeah, I feel like that was definitely an interesting moment that I don't know about. But yeah, overall, like it was an entertaining film. I thought Millie Alcock did great. The few scenes with David Cornsweet in it, you know, bounced right back in from Superman, and he did great. Yeah, going forward, Millie Alcock's supposed to have a big role in the future of the DC universe. She's obviously confirmed to be in Man of Tomorrow, which is filming right now, scheduled to be released about a year from now. So yeah, I'm excited for that. Peter Safran did say, even though this film did underperform in its opening weekend and it's projected to just keep declining for the next couple of weekends, sadly, having it underperform, at least what he's saying, isn't affecting their plans for the universe and what they're planning to do going forward. I know the writer, Anna, I don't remember her last name off the top of my head, she also is slated to write the Wonder Woman film and a Teen Titans film for the DC Universe. Those have been put on hold, I heard. I don't know if that's a direct correlation with the underperformance of Supergirl or if there's just other things that James Gunn and Peter Safran are planning to do behind the scenes and like mix some stuff around. Because I also know James Gunn last year, he did say that, if there's a certain film or script that we really like that we didn't necessarily plan to do, but we really like it, the whole team likes it, we'll move ahead with it. So, I feel like they're very open-minded about what projects they want to do. They aren't set in stone with anything specific, especially early on. I feel like that's a good thing, hopefully. So yeah, I'm interested to see that. But going forward with the DC Universe, I'm excited to see Millie Alcock and her character grow. She had a good arc in the film, I will say that. Because, at the end of Superman, her little cameo, she's very laid back, very teenage-ish, so to speak. Very different from what we're used to seeing from the character. And at the start of her film, she definitely was like that, but the events throughout the film, and I feel like the way her relationship ended up being with Ruthie in the film kind of gave her a sense of responsibility for another life, so to speak, besides just Krypto. But yeah, the events throughout the film kind of made her realize that she has more responsibility that come with, being who she is, which I thought, I liked her arc. I thought that was definitely, might be an undershadowed part of the film that not a lot of people necessarily would talk about, but I thought it was really good. So going forward, I'm excited to see how she's gonna be incorporated on Earth with Superman, all the other characters that we first met in Superman that will be back in Man of Tomorrow, and her role in that, and just moving beyond that going forward. They said she's going to be a big player in the DC Universe beyond Man of Tomorrow, so I'm excited to see that. The next film in the DC Universe, we have Clayface, scheduled for October. That's getting a lot of buzz too because we're gonna get introduced to the DC Universe's Gotham City. Before we get introduced to any members of the Bat family, we're going to get introduced to Clayface. It's going to be a horror film, mostly. Yeah, so I'm excited for that, and I'm getting introduced to this universe's Gotham City, and how they're going to do that. And I know a lot of other people are too. So excited for that. Next year we have Man of Tomorrow, and then I'm not sure exactly what is definitely confirmed after that. So we'll just have to wait and see. Next episode we will be skipping a week. Then next episode we will be talking about the live-action Moana. Now, for those of you who are fans, I'm excited for it. I know like a lot of people, especially when it was first announced, we're questioning like, why do we need one? It's been 10 years since the first one came out, the animated one. I agree with that, but like at the same time, I'm a Disney fan, so I'll watch it. I'm excited. Plus The Rock has hair, so it'll be fun. Yeah, so that's gonna be our next episode in 2 weeks. Yeah, I'm excited for that. And excited to see the DC Universe continue to grow and how they're planning to expand it. So comment down below with what you thought about Supergirl, where you want to see the DC Universe going, and as always, thank you for your support. We'll see you next time.